Hello, this is Steve Shaw, National Coordinator of Football Officials and Secretary of Rules Editor for the NCAA. And today we're going to be presenting a video for both officials and coaches, and we're going to be focused on our new change in 2022 on blocking below the waist. Now, this change limits blocking below the waist to the tackle box only, and there are two reasons for this significant change. Number one is around player health and safety. And what we've learned from our medical feedback is that when we reduce open field blocks below the waist, we reduce injuries to the knee and ankle areas on players being blocked. And really the second reason is the rule today is very complex, and this new rule should be a rule that all players, coaches, and officials can understand and work together with. Now, in this video, we're going to review the rules language, and we're going to look at some formations and allowable actions from those players in there, and some video to help clarify what's a legal and illegal block below the waist. And we all need to understand this rule consistently together so we can coach it and we can officiate it. Now, again, simply stated, blocking below the waist is not going to be allowed outside the tackle box. But let's get on into some specifics that we can look at on video.
As we look at the rule, Team A, or the offense, linemen with initial position inside the tackle box can legally block below the waist inside the tackle box on their initial line charge. And that block can be from the front below the waist, from the side. It just can't be a clip at or below the knee. And a block that's initiated 1 yard beyond the neutral zone is considered within the tackle box. But a lineman couldn't go to the second level, say 3 yards downfield, and block a linebacker below the waist. That block would have to be at the waist or above. And now for these linemen after the initial line charge, they can still block below the waist within the tackle box as long as the ball hasn't left the tackle box. But the force of the initial contact after the initial line charge must be directed from the front for those linemen. And very similarly, a stationary back lined up within the tackle box, they can block below the waist within the tackle box, again, until the ball leaves the zone, if the force of the initial contact is directed from the front. And then simply stated, all other Team A players outside the tackle box cannot block below the waist. Now, a point of note that if a player leaves the tackle box and comes back in, they cannot block below the waist. Once you've left the tackle box, always out of the tackle box. Now, rules pertaining to Team B, or the defense, on blocking below the waist are pretty straightforward. So players aligned in a stationary position within 1 yard of the line of scrimmage within the tackle box, they can legally block below the waist in the tackle box on their initial line charge. But after their initial line charge, and all other Team B players are not allowed to block below the waist, and the exception is against a ball carrier. You obviously can hit the ball carrier below the waist. And no change as far as any time after a change of possession or during any down where there's a free or scrimmage kick, there is no blocking below the waist. Now let's take a look at a couple formations and talk about what is and is not allowed in blocking below the waist. Now this first formation, we see number 13, the quarterback, is under center. And as we draw in our tackle box and we see number 69, the left tackle, and number 70, the right tackle, create the outer edge of the tackle box, we're going to start with back number 3. Number 3 is stationary and inside the tackle box. So he can block below the waist inside this tackle box. He can slide right or left and block an opponent below the waist as long as this block is directed from the front on the defender. So he can pick up a blitzer, somebody that breaks contained, but the block must be from the front. As we look at player number 0, we see that his foot is catching a piece of the left tackle. So we consider him within the tackle box. So he can block below the waist in the tackle box as long as the block is directed from the front. Now, a word of caution, if he were to go across the formation, by rule, he can still block below the waist if he stays in the tackle box, but it would be very difficult for him to direct this block below the waist from the front as he comes across this formation. As we look at another formation, many things to discuss here. We're going to see number 13 is under center, and so number 3, the stationary back in the backfield, he's within the tackle box, so he can block low as long as the block is directed from the front. Now, we'd see the defender on the outside shoulder of right tackle number 70. So he's catching a piece of the tackle. He's now considered in the tackle box, so he can block low on his initial line charge. Next, we're going to see a player in the left tackle position. Now, this is actually the tight end number 86, and the offense is in a tackle over formation. But the tight end here would be considered within the tackle box, so he can block below the waist. And now the same thing with number 70, the right tackle. He's within the tackle box, so he can block below the waist. But the tackle over, number 69, is actually outside the tackle box, and he cannot block below the waist. And as we continue to look at the wingback, number 19, he's catching a piece of 69, but 69 is outside the tackle box, so number 19 cannot block below the waist on this play. Now, the 2 blocks we want to look at on this next play. First, we're going to see number 4 of the offense. He's going to block number 9 of the defense. And this block is low, it's below the waist, and clearly outside the tackle box. And this would be a foul under our new rule. And I also want to look at the left tackle, number 77, as we look from the end zone view. And we see that he blocks defender number 2, the edge rusher, who comes straight up the field. Now, number 77 still has his feet in the tackle box. He blocks the defender low. We would consider this as initial line charge action, and this is not a foul. One other set of actions we want to look at, number 67, the right guard, he's going to pull to the left, and then he's going to get cut by the defensive end. Now, this action would not be considered the initial line charge. It would be a second act, really, and therefore the defender is not allowed to block below the waist in this case, and this would be a foul for a block below the waist on the defense. Similarly, if the offensive lineman pulls, that's a second act, and so not part of the initial line charge. So number 67 here could not block low against the defender unless the block was directed from the front, still in the tackle box, and the ball had not left the tackle box. A couple of closing thoughts. Remember that a block below the waist is a block in which the force of the initial contact is below the waist of an opponent. And a blocker who makes contact above the waist and then slides below the waist has not blocked below the waist. Now, I hope this video has been helpful. And coaches, if you have questions, please reach out to your coordinator or feel free to reach out to me, and you can see my contact information here. Best of luck to all as we start up our summer practices, and I hope everyone stays safe and healthy.